Good morning, metalheads of the internet. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown, and today we are looking at the latest studio album from the Black Dahlia Murder, entitled Verminous. This is the 9th studio album from this American melodic death metal band, one that I'm sure served as a gateway for many of you into the worlds of death metal and extreme music many, many years ago. They certainly were for me, at least. In fact, their 2011 album Ritual was one of the first death metal albums I bought with my own money. And to say that I've kept track of the band ever since is a little bit of an understatement. They're not a particularly innovative or progressive death metal band, but everything they do is done with the utmost professionalism, energy, and confidence. And to their credit, there has been gradual evolution from album to album. As while they may remain extremely consistent in style and quality, they have nonetheless over the years become far more technical, far more melodic, far more mature, and far more sonically heavy with time and experience. To the point where I think we could all agree that the Black Dahlia Murder are modern death metal's answer to a band like Cannibal Corpse. For these reasons, the hullabaloo, the anticipation, the hype surrounding Verminous is somewhat surprising. As an official press release from the Black Dahlia Murder states, and I quote directly, "Verminous is the Black Dahlia Murder's most dynamic, rousing, and emotional release to date." When I spoke to Trevor a couple of weeks ago here on the Metal Meltdown about this press release, he even went as far as to add on to it and say that Verminous, in his eyes, was the Black Dahlia Murder's most ambitious album to date, and that there was a significant leap forward in the band's evolution from Nightbringers to this record. And while I don't agree 100% with these statements, I can understand why the band and the record label are saying these things. I can definitely understand why they feel the way they feel. Because in many ways, Verminous does show the Black Dahlia Murder at their most musically inspired and disgusting moment yet. The sound is incredibly in your face. There are very huge, almost anthemic hooks scattered across the record. Wild, hyper-flamboyant guitar passages from Brandon Ellis, who has truly stretched his ooze-covered wings on this thing. And Trevor, in particular, through his lyrics, is painting some of the most gruesome, violent, and blood-curdlingly weird portraits of his career. And he takes it so far on certain occasions that the album does have this very conceptual flow and feel to it, as Trevor quite literally paints the heavy metal underground as disease-carrying rats, the aforementioned Verminous. For God's sakes, even the marketing for this album is extremely inventive. They have a literal slime-filled transparent vinyl record and a fucking Dungeons & Dragons expansion for this. But make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of whatever changes, subtle or not, may exist on Verminous, this is still the Black Dahlia Murder at the very core. This is the same type of band that made Nightbringers, Abysmal, Everblack, Ritual, Deflorate, and many, many more. And if you've been disenchanted by these records, particularly the last two, then I don't think Verminous would do a whole lot to change your mind. And I'd even go as far as to say that longtime fans that are perhaps looking for something objectively fresher, and perhaps anticipating it from Verminous because all of the hype, hullabaloo, anticipation, could also be a little bit disappointed. I myself will even admit that I did find this record to be ultimately somewhat predictable. But here's the thing for me. Black Dahlia Murder is one of those few death metal bands that I don't really want to change. Not dramatically, at least. A good Black Dahlia Murder record has become the equivalent to enjoying a strong Jack and Coke for me. It's reliable, it's simple, it's got nothing to hide, and it goes down bloody smooth. So while Verminous and the Black Dahlia Murder won't be winning any awards for originality come the end of the year, they will be winning awards for once again delivering me my reliable, smooth, delicious, and consistent death metal cocktail. Tracks like Godlessly, Child of Night, The Leather Apron, Scorn, How Very Dead, and many more deliver everything that I love and expect of the Black Dahlia Murder. From the high-octane performances to the unrelenting brutality consistently displayed. Particularly love the Wereworm's Feast. You can practically feel the slime and ooze dripping off of those guitar strings. And some tracks, true to the statements that you've already heard, do showcase a much more emotional and ambitious side of the Black Dahlia Murder. Take, for instance, closing track Dawn of Rats. The track constantly builds on flurries of incredibly sharp riffs and vocal assaults, eventually blossoming into something quite cathartic and climactic, exploding with a wild assortment of flamboyant and even emotive guitar passages. Eventually emboldened by one of Travis's best vocal performances on the record, before closing out with the literal scurrying of disease-carrying, heavy metal-loving rats, the aforementioned Verminous. And speaking of those Verminous, that incredible title track that was released as a single months ago, every bit as toxic and infectious in context of this album as it was as a standalone single. The only genuine criticism I have for this album is that I wish they had fully realized the concept that they are very clearly holding and hinting at. As we've already noted in this video, and as Trevor himself has reiterated multiple times leading up to this album's release, the Verminous are meant to represent the heavy metal underground. How the world sees us as these filthy, ravenous, disgusting little rats, but in the end, we will endure, we will survive, much like the plague itself. And I think that had this concept been fully realized and expanded to the rest of the album, not only would Verminous truly live up to all of the statements we've read so far, but I think it would stand, for me at least, as the band's strongest record. And I guess now that we're reaching the final verdict, it would be unwise of me to remember that I did literally say that I found this album kind of predictable. It'd be kind of hard for any reviewer to skip over a statement like that, especially at this point in the video. But hey, at the end of the day, none of these things truly matter, because at the end of the day, I knew exactly what type of album I was buying when I bought Verminous. I knew that I was buying a dependable, consistent, reliable death metal album and that nothing else really mattered. I knew that I was buying a Black Dahlia Murder record, and as such, I feel more than comfortable giving this a highly enthusiastic 3.5 out of 5. It won't change your life, it won't blow your mind, but it will deliver an exhilarating, blood-pumping blast of sturdy, consistent death metal. It'll be just as smooth and delicious as any other Jack and Coke that the Black Dahlia Murder have made for us over the years. And I think that despite everything they may have said publicly in anticipation for this record, they know at the very core that that's what Verminous is, and they're perfectly comfortable giving you that reliable, consistent experience. And I suppose if by chance a younger viewer came across this video unfamiliar with death metal but thirsty and excited to check it out, that an album like Verminous could indeed be life-changing, could indeed be mind-blowing. Just as Ritual and Everblack kind of were to me years ago when I first picked them up. So go ahead and dig in, you disgusting, venomous little monsters. 3.5 out of 5, a damn good record. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? Thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately, and you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.